welcome back. So, yes, we'll talk about the president's speech and get reactions. We've got two gentlemen here with us in the studios. Aliyu Aldu, former member, APC Presidential Transition Committee, Media Strategy Subcommittee, and Yunus Tanko, Chief Spokesperson, Labour Party, PCC. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
Yeah, and we will also go to Lagos. We'll got a guest there as well in time. So let me start with you, Aldu. Yes, I know that this speech is out there. You've seen some of the reactions from Labour and several other persons about this speech. So the points that they've raised, do you think that, well, okay, my opinion of that they do have a point, or you think, look, the speech suffices?
They do have a point. I mean, many times we have always said something that the good thing about having the government we currently have is the fact that we are very, in touch with reality. We are patriotic. We understand, like the president said yesterday, we understand what the feelers are. And then we understand the reason for doubts, for concerns, because years after years, government after government, Nigerians have heard sort of, promises, lofty speeches and, but basically nothing to show from it. But this is different. The president we have now is different. We have always said it from before he emerged as presidential candidate of the APC, and after he emerged, right up till this second, if anything at all, the speech yesterday should sort of, put Nigerians' mind at ease. Like, I mean, there's emotion. There was emotion in that statement. That was a father talking to children, brothers, sisters, and compatriots, and the choice of words in the speech, like the tough, anxious, uncertainty, this clearly shows that the president is in touch with reality. He knows what's going on. He knows how Nigerians feel. He's got people on the field that give direct feedback on what the reality is. We have a set of teams within the system who are very hard from within. Try to we have deliberately not insulated ourselves from the general public so as to understand this is what it is. I mean, send SOS internally when the need arises. And the speech basically covers a whole lot. And all we can say at this point is for every single Nigerian stakeholders to let's give ourselves a chance. I mean, if we look at this and forget about the distrust between Nigerians and government in the past, there's a lot to look at. A couple of weeks from now, we tell, the implementation. He has a track record of not taking on task he can execute, and is the best at in terms of execution in public office till date. He has showed that while he was in Lagos. He hasn't done anything different from what he's done while he was in Lagos. Take time to plan, understand the problem, come up with a solution that will solve the problem, sustainable solution that will solve the problem with a plan to prevent the problem from reoccurring. If you see the palliative, if you see the way it's been done, it shows that it's sensitive, it's scientific, it's pragmatic, and we have every reason to be confident that, like he rightly said, the dark days are over. We are stepping into brighter days.
Well, Dr. Tanko, did they hit the key issues for you, the speech?
Permit me to share this thought with you this morning. They said a society that, is more or less being united by corruption can be sickening, very sickening. The only succor there is that no amount of how falsehood holds sway, a pinch of truth in a filled, falsely inflated balloon will deflate. This is what I mean. We have a government of a political party that has promised a lot of things throughout its tenure of that particular party. Almost like, let's say, 10 to 20% of the promises that were being made, none of them see the light of the day. We were groaning in pain. Nigerians were in serious pain at that particular point in time. What we have now is a government that is not prepared ab initio knowing fully well the challenges that the former government has put Nigerians into, it now double its pains and pang within a short period of time. Now, within that period, here you are, appealing to the Nigerian people in a forcefully sentimental way, trying to get their minds and say, look, we can do this, that a government in which your party belonged to, ab initio, which has already put this particular pain on Nigerians. Now you are now clamoring, giving them a watery and, appealing statements that you're going to do A, B, C, D, exonerating yourself in a way from the pain and pang that's already been inflicted on the Nigerian people, and providing with all due respect, forceful presentation that can put a lot of people in a lot of danger. I am not really surprised because, like you said, these are some of the things that they are used to doing, giving Nigerians hope and dashing it at the last minute.
What part is false here?
Good. Now, when you say you are going to build, you are going to do A, B, C, D, the question you want to ask is that this humongous sum of money already, at the first place, has it even been budgeted for? Is it part of the budget that you are going to use, or you are going to present another supplementary budget to take care of this particular large sum of money that you want to do to the Nigerian people? And what are the time frames? How do you intend to execute this within the short period of time? The salary that you are trying to tell the Nigerian civil servant that it is coming, how long it is going to come? We are all witness to what has happened with the ASU. All of the things that have happened with the Nigerian Labour Congress within the years, none of them have been actually seen the light of the day. And then here you are now trying to use a kind of a sweet-coated word in order to dampen the spirit of the Nigerian people.
What part are you asking if it's been budgeted for? Because I see here where he says, our plan to support cultivation of 500,000 hectares of farmland all year round, that's a farming practice, remains on course. To be specific, 200 billion naira out of the 500 billion naira approved by the National Assembly will be disbursed as follows. And he gives the breakdown of how that will be. So this has been approved by the National Assembly.
Approved by the National Assembly. I'm talking about the total amount of 125 billion naira, if I'm not mistaken. That's all a large sum of money. It's a large sum of money. And how do we intend to, where are the source of this particular money? How do we intend to appropriate them according to the interests of the Nigerian people? This has to be justified.
Okay, well, I see here, talking about that 125 billion naira. He says out of the sum, we'll spend 50 billion on conditional grants, 1 million nano businesses between now and March 24. Our target is to give 50,000 naira each to 1,300 nano business owners in each of the 774 local governments across the country. Well, some people will argue that the president already got an approval for $800 million, which has not been spent, at least to the best of our knowledge, unless it's been spent secretly. Mr. Audu can let us know. But to the best of everyone's knowledge in Nigeria, maybe to the exclusion of others, $800 million has been approved by the World Bank, also through the approval of the National Assembly. So some people will say, okay, perhaps there is money here to implement this. What I really am curious about is whether there is, a system to actually implement this. For instance, identifying, and I think this would be to you, Mr. Audu, identifying who these business owners will be. Is there a modality? Are we clear on that? Because part of what has really agitated the minds of many Nigerians, initially when the president said they're going to give 8,000 naira to 12 million households, a lot of people said, look, it's not like as if it's a bad plan. First, 8,000 naira is very little money. But from our experience, it has not been distributed in a fair and equitable manner, in a way that people can say, oh, yes, indeed. Even if it was not a lot, people actually did get these monies. And that's been the concern. So for a number of people, how do we know that this will not be subject, once again, to corruption, to squandering? Are there clear modalities by which businesses that do qualify for these grants and for these loans are able to get them? Do you have any confidence that our system can actually support the implementation of this?
Yes. It's understandable that we have concerns, we have doubts. I mean, like I said earlier, from where we're coming from, it will be very, unhealthy to not expect such concerns. But now let me talk about what you mentioned earlier. We have the vulnerable sectors in our system that are largely undocumented, let alone banked. However, if we are systematic and we are being scientific, we understand the fact that in every community, no matter how rural, we have your rural, semi-rural, semi-urban, then urban. No matter how rural every community is, when you go there, the traditional structure, the mosques, the churches, they know where the poorest and the most vulnerable people in society live, because when they collect tithe, zakat, sadaqah, all of this they do in the religious houses, they collect from people who can give. They know who they give it to. So
is that a system that
no, it is very, I mean, that is an informal system that exists. But for us to document an informal system like the nano, I'm not even talking about the nano businesses right now. Let's look at the vulnerables, like the ones that were targeted with the 8,000, per for 12 million household. It is very easy. We have a lot of underemployed and unemployed young graduates who are very energetic and vibrant that can be deployed within a space of weeks to months to the most remotest part of the community. We have digital banking as we speak right now. We have all manner of digital banking that are operating well and virtually. All of this with technology can be deployed to the remote areas, gather this data in a matter of weeks, get them documented, get them banked. Now let me explain something.
Under what ministry, please?
I mean, I haven't quite seen the structure of the new cabinet, what's going to move around. If I were to run on the previous structure we ran, we had the humanitarian minister and social development. I mean, the Ministry of Youth and Sport Development, can come in here. The Ministry of Labor, can come in here. The whole lot of ministry, it's a project. Right now we are in a crisis, and it's a project that will involve a lot of, you're going to put up a project team that will involve a lot of traditional systems. That the goal is to get to these people, these vulnerable people, get them documented. Now, 12 million household, even though that's being reviewed as we speak, 12 million household, if we look at the average membership of a household in such vulnerable areas, we look at 2 to 3 per household.
I don't want to dwell on that because it's been reviewed, so we never can tell.
Okay, now let's go back to the
50 billion unconditional grant to 1 million nano businesses.
Good.
Between now and March 2024.
Good.
But you sound as though there isn't any concrete plan yet.
No.
To implement this.
No. What I'm saying, implementation is what hasn't taken place. There is a plan. This is a plan. What he has said is a plan. There are other plans that have not been revealed, that couldn't have been revealed in his speech. What is left is implementation.
Okay, let me come to other guests here. Let me quickly ask you about, you mentioned how this is putting a lot of people in danger. I wasn't quite certain what you were talking about when you said that.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that a lot of hope will be built. I'm thinking that probably, yes, something good is coming to the Nigerian people, and everybody will now be well structured and start thinking that it's possible. And then before you knew it, you found yourself in a ditch because the promises that have already been done in the past have not been fulfilled. And so what you will have is double wahala for dead body, not like Fela has said in the previous time. Because we're just coming out from a very dangerous situation, and now we're going back into a dungeon. That is exactly what I mean.
Yeah, but what would you have had the president do? Because some people will say, look, this subsidy on petrol, almost all the candidates, did say that this thing had to go. It had to go. It was not sustainable in the manner in which it was being implemented. It was seen that the president decided to bite the bullet even in his own inaugural speech. And from then on, it went. And this is where we currently are. What would you have had him do?
Well, you see, the problem is that when you, there's a word in which when you lie, you look for another lie in order to cover the first lie in which you've lied. So it continues like that. The problem started when you want to legitimize an office holder. And so you are trying to play to the gallery. And so in playing to the gallery, you shot yourself on the foot. Right from the beginning, the word issue of subsidy was already been taken off the budget by the previous government, quite all right. And then you will have just let it go silently. And prepare yourself before you make that particular, why would I use the word, too hurriedly statement of this particular statement that subsidy is gone. And so it went to the market. It now put Nigerian people in a lot of problems. Those who want to cash in on it, and here is an interesting part of it. Mr. President, I would say Mr. President at the moment now, said that there are certain people that are benefiting from the hands of the majority. And I was wondering, who are these certain few? I was almost thinking that Mr. President was part of those particular few that were already been so much endowed with finances. So, and here we are. How can you create, because most of the thing that goes for Mr. President on a sentimental basis was that he is a builder of men, he build individuals. And so those particular same individual, he's the one that is going to shoot on the foot and saying that they are the ones that are in charge of certain money belonging to the few majority. It doesn't, there's no correlation in these two.
Okay.
Because to us, we feel that they are the same people.
So before we head to
Nigeria in this particular strenuous situation.
Okay, I'm going to bring Aliyu and then Dr. Pierce in Lagos, but just a minute. Dr. Stanko, does he help in any way? Because, yes, you mentioned the president's statement about fuel subsidy, how several people took advantage of it. But if you look at his speech yesterday, where he says the preceding administration saw this looming danger as well. Indeed, it made no provision in the 2023 appropriations for subsidy after June this year. So he seems to have corrected himself, having recognized what transpired last time out. So does this count for something? Probably the way he came across this time, that particular way.
He only acknowledged the fact that he is aware that the former government has already actually removed that.
Which some people say that is what he should have said in his inaugural day and not
exactly. That's why what I said, you should have just like been even silent with it. Already it has been established. All you needed to do is go back to the drawing board and plan on how you intend to implement good, palliative or way in which Nigerian people can survive on the old situation.
Okay, Parliament jumping. Mr. Ali, when he says, look, these few people cannot keep benefiting their elite, and so they have to take away the subsidy and then do certain things. So his narrative, his point is, are these so-called elites or whoever they are they ghosts? Why can't they be apprehended? So if subsidy is meant for the people and these other folks are diverting it, why don't you deal with the problem? It's a corruption problem and not a subsidy problem, some argue.
All right. Let me quickly say this, that, Mr. President was very specific in his, I'm particularly impressed with the choice of words in the whole of the speech yesterday. When he mentioned elite, he didn't just say elite, he said elite of the elite. And let's get something right.
Business.
They're not, but
why can't they be arrested?
Mr. Chamberlain, you and I remember sometime about 10, 11 years ago when the subsidies come in the House of Reps came up, when certain individuals, certain billionaires were fingered, and
But some of your party kicked against removal of subsidy at the time.
Yes, at the time, but we know better now, and this is what has happened, and this is what needs to happen.
So why can't they be arrested, whoever they are?
You see, while you go ahead, there are two ways to solve this problem, right? While trying to, dry up the flood, you stop the leak.
Would you like to see them arrested yourself?
Yes, that's my position. They should be arrested. But until that is done, we know how, like he said, they are very powerful.
Are there plans to get that done? Do you know?
There must be plans to get people to answer questions they need to answer. It's already in process.
All right.
So, but let me quickly make this part about something he did say about how he could have, just gone into the next phase without taking care of the main problem. From now, our subsidy has been at source, meaning that when a 33,000-liter tank carries PMS from Lagos, Apapa to Katsina, we have it subsidized at the source. Vaporization happens. These are volatile substance. Vaporization happens in the sense that if a liter gets vaporized between Lagos to Apapa, what is vaporizing isn't just the cost of fuel. It includes the cost of that is subsidized. So it is all
we have
working for the economy from
we have
all angles.
several government agencies. We have the DSS. We have several people, all established to make sure this corruption or this thievery or stealing, diversion doesn't happen. Yet it happens. They have to answer questions. But let's go to Lagos. Our colleagues there have got a guest there as well. Go ahead, guys.
Thank you, Chamberlain. We have Dr. Adetokunbo Pierce here with us this morning. He is a member, PDP National Presidential Campaign Council, and he's also Lagos State Coordinator, Atiku Presidential Campaign Support Group. Thank you for joining us this morning. Well, you've heard a lot, but your personal initial thoughts, with the president's speech of 7 p.m. yesterday.
I'm glad the president focused on the economy because that is what drives the country. And the speech was colorless, uninspiring, unimaginative, unfortunately, to some extent also dishonest. Let me tell you something very simple. This subsidy removal is creating so much havoc in the economy that is going to drive us into a recession. What the Chinese say is this. You learn from the philosophy of ancient cultures. The Chinese say if you want to build your economy, you build roads. All right? That means people have to be able to move. The buyer must be able to get to the point of buying. The seller must be able to get to the point of sale. Therefore, they must be able to communicate and they must be able to move. Now, with this removal of oil subsidy, we have seen what is going on in Nigeria. No movement, right? It took me almost 2 hours to find a Uber to come here from Yaba. They didn't want to come. They're afraid that if they get caught up in the holdup, the cost of transportation, the cost of petrol is so high now. So it's disrupting every aspect of the economy. Therefore, no matter what we say and what we do, we have to address that issue. Removing subsidy, you are curbing one type of corruption, right? As they said, marketers. Now, where the problem is in Nigeria's economy, it's not just subsidy. All the agencies that collect for the government, they should remit money to the federation account. NNPC, NIMASA, FIRS.
Well, let's
they have not been doing it. So, an inefficiency, corruption in the system is where the money is.
Well, we know that all of these issues that you've raised,
yes,
significant as they are, they predate. I mean, they go as far back as even 1999. If for those who would want to look that far back.
That is in every society.
I'm just saying,
it even predates that.
I'm just saying. But when you talked about the subsidy, your presidential candidate also said he was going to remove the subsidy. So this situation of subsidy removal would have happened anyway.
No, we don't know. Let us say Atiku said he's going to remove subsidy. If he came,
are you saying that he didn't say it?
If he removed, no, he did. If he removed subsidy the way Tinubu did, we'll have the same problems. Therefore, it's a question of method and approach. What we're saying is, you cannot hold Atiku or anybody accountable now.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying. Everyone said that.
But
then there are those who have also argued, my apologies, yes, Dr. Pierce, there are those who have also argued that there is no way we would look at the same issue so long as, we've depended on the subsidy regime that some people say doesn't exist for so long. There is no way that removing this subsidy will not generate the kind of, or rather, a similar kind of reaction that it is generating.
It depends on how you remove the subsidy.
How should it have been done? It depends
on the plan you have in place.
How should it have been
somebody
done?
Just said it from Abuja.
Okay.
In the first place, subsidy had been removed by Buhari to to some extent. Therefore, where we were already paying a high price for petrol, already 200 naira per liter almost. That was enough. So President Tinubu announcing it in the cavalier manner he did is what caused the inflation. Therefore, it shouldn't have been. Now, let me tell you something about subsidy.
Did you really read the speech?
The inflation had held sway before the president came to power, Dr. Pierce.
What inflation?
Inflation in the economy. Before he came to power,
wait,
pushing the 20% mark.
Before Tinubu came into power, how much was a liter of oil? 200. He came in, made the announcement, it went to 450. And then on and on. Now we are at 600 plus. So that's wrong. Inflation came when Tinubu came and made that announcement. Now let me tell you something about subsidy. Everybody keeps saying we must remove subsidy. You could be right to say it exacerbated the inflation, but inflation had been there before he came to power. Look, all we are saying is that our lives have become more difficult. Everything has become more expensive. There is always a challenge in every society. If you sold a liter of petrol for 60 naira, people will still say it's high. It will be high for some people.
Okay.
But now when you bring it to this level, we have a serious problem. Let me tell you something about subsidy. People keep saying you must remove subsidy. We are paying too much for subsidy. Look, every country that develops must subsidize what will engineer the economy. Petrol, if it's not available, it will kill the economy. I'm saying it now. In every country, just about 4 months ago, they had a problem with petrol price in America. The presidency had to intervene to keep the price low, because without it is what fuels the economy. That's why I said the Chinese say, you want to develop your economy, you must build roads, you must make transportation available. Now, every aspect of life must be subsidized. In developed countries, you subsidize health, you subsidize transportation, you subsidize education.
You don't think that the interventions, the propositions of the federal government in terms of subsidizing transportation is enough? You don't think it is something?
You mean what Tinubu is saying now?
Yes. You don't think it is something?
If he does it, fine. Okay. Somebody has also said it, that they make these promises and there's nothing in place to show that it will happen. Now, let me tell you something about this speech. A lot of spending. A lot of, we will give money to this, we give money to that. Where is he going to get 500 acres to give to farmers when governors control the land? Number one. Number two, you are spending money, where is he going to get all this money? He has not talked in this speech on how to develop the economy. He shows he's just a bookkeeper. He's an accountant. He's not an economist. How do you develop the economy? Let me tell you, in the short run, this is what you do. You go to where the leakages are to collect your money. All these millions that should be gone into the Federation account that have not gone there, you must recoup them. You cannot just be taking money, saving money. You must be making money. What Tinubu has done now is, with this all subsidy, is to try to save some money. And then he keeps spending. All these things he's saying he's going to do, where is he going to get the money? If you don't collect the money that is owed the government already, FIRS, NIMASA, MPC, all of them, Post Authority, the money must come in.
You don't think it is
talking about that?
You don't think it's also significant? Just a second. You don't think it's also significant that the president said that so far we've saved 1 trillion naira from subsidy that was going to the elite of the elites? And
let me tell you
just talked about
that is another misconception. It is not the elite that is suffering now. The subsidy was not, okay, you stop the elite from taking money. Which money? The money they were taking was being spent on subsidy, which was helping the ordinary masses to survive and booming the economy. This is total rubbish. It's a big error. And you will see as we go along, this is going to create a recession in this economy. Already we have a recession. Do you know that? When you don't see movement on the road, when you don't see transactions going on, When oil consumption now has gone to 28% below what it was when he took office, we have a problem. We have a 20% deficit in our economy already, and it's going to get worse. In the long run, how do you raise money? We have to increase our revenue source in Nigeria. Tinubu is not saying about that. You know how in the short run you collect monies? 20,000 properties built by the federal government. For about 10 years now, nobody's collecting ground rent. It's 6 trillion naira. 6 trillion naira owed to the federal government. That's where the money is. Don't go and take money. You're balancing your budget on the back of poor people. And not only poor people. You see, this subsidy removal is affecting 80% of Nigerians. You know why? What's the percentage of people in this establishment that make 200,000 naira or more a year? Think about it. If you're not making 200,000 a year, you are suffering like hell in Nigeria because you cannot afford to move around. People are now leaving their cars at home.
But Dr. Pierce,
and the public transportation is not working. Many of them don't have AC anymore.
But Dr. Pierce, much of your reservations is what seems to have been covered by the president in his speech through these interventions that he has announced.
Which one?
You talked about, the roads. There is an infrastructure support fund that has been provided to fix the roads that are access routes to farms. There is an infrastructure support fund that has been provided to fix access roads to health institutions and education institutions. The president, in fact, also announced the provision of transportation for students in tertiary institutions. In fact, the CNG-powered buses, according to the governor of Ogun State, will be procured locally to keep the jobs and the funds at home. I would have thought that, you would be talking about how these will be executed such that there will be accountability.
Look, building roads is easy to say. My point is, where is the money going to come from when you have not developed the economy?
So it's not significant that the World Bank, there's an approved $800 million World Bank loan. You're not also comforted of the 500 billion naira approved by the House of Representatives.
I understand economics.
Okay.
The president in this speech shows he's only a bookkeeper. He is a tax collector. He doesn't know economics 101. I'm telling you. Look, so you are getting loan upon loan. This is why we're complaining about Buhari. You keep getting the loan. How do you service the loan? You know how you service the loan? In the short run. In a capitalist economy, you don't take money from what is the engine room of your economy. Oil subsidy. You don't. You borrow more money. But as you are borrowing, you must be raising money. This is why America is owing trillions of dollars. It's a debt economy. The capitalism, that's the way it works. You can take any money, you can spend anything you want. By the way, Tinubu says this, he understands this in his protest against Jonathan in 2011, I believe. He said it. He said you don't need to save money anywhere, you just need to develop your economy. And you can borrow as much as you want. Now, in the short run, collect all what is owed the government. Tinubu must face corruption. The leakages, the waste in the oil industry, he must face that first and foremost, collect in the short run. In the long run, you must diversify the economy.
Okay, so
lithium, gold, uranium, all bitumen, all this natural. Enugu area has the 9th largest deposit of natural gas in the world.
Will the manufacturers support fund, 1 billion naira credit to manufacturers, will it address this?
Pardon?
The 1 billion naira credit to manufacturers announced by the president in his speech, will it address the development of the mineral sector that you're talking about?
No.
Why?
The president must address the issue of legal, constitutional ways of developing the economy. For instance, when we say diversify the economy, we mean that in every state, as of now, mineral resources are in the exclusive list. You cannot use it to develop your state. 1 billion, forget about that. We're talking about access to international funds, international partners, national economic development, so that the uranium we have can be used to develop the area in the northeast where the uranium is.
So
instead of allowing Boko Haram to take our uranium
is it also significant, Dr. Pierce, that the president mentioned DFIs, commercial banks, and MFBs also being engaged in this conversation, because you just talked about multilateral organizations now. Anyway, we'll get back to that. Dr. Tanko, you know, one of the issues that comes to mind when one listens to the issues that you have raised so far, I know one is just wondering exactly how, you know, the perspective that each of these issues that you've raised, you know, how they are being addressed. Because, for instance, I mean, part of what you said is that, you know, maybe the president is not approaching these things as holistically as one would expect. But, you know, it is clear from the very, very get-go of that speech that he was speaking to immediate economic interventions. Isn't that sufficient for you?
No, because to me, I feel that he was just playing to the gallery. What I simply mean here is this. There are issues that have erupted within a short period of time from his initial inauguration speech that has generated this particular big problem that we have at the moment. And in trying to solve that, he's now providing a particular, mouth-watering.
Dr. Tanko, when you say that the president, just one moment, if you can hear me. When you say that the president, you know, made a statement that's, as well, to use another word, conflagrated the economy at the behest of this administration, what preceded that speech was exactly what he repeated here in this current speech, that the previous administration did not make provisions for subsidy. So that three-word sentence, subsidy is gone, is just like a confirmation or an affirmation, call it a summary of that previous statement that he made. So are you speaking to the interpretation of the Nigerian about this, or the impact of that speech itself, or the value of the speech itself?
The impact of the speech, of what he said in the inaugural speech, caused this particular problem that we have at the moment now. Because obviously, for those who do not know, may not have been aware that the subsidy has already been removed, I mean, practically, because there was no budgetary allocation for the payment, even though you may also be aware that there are some who argue that there was no even subsidy in the first place, which all of us agree that it is a whole scam, and it was just meant to enrich certain couple of few Nigerians. And now, in that regard, what Mr. President, I said, if I can call him that in this particular situation, considering the fact that we are challenging the legitimacy of the presidency in court, we can also deduce that the statement that was already being made only aggravated the matter. He would have just let it slide while he deals with the other issues, rather than putting more pang and pain on the Nigerian people. Because take a look at it. There's never a time in the history of Nigeria, anything that you make a reference to, you think that probably the fuel hike will come down, and then they are telling us about the issue of market forces and all. There's no way. The worst that you can see, even in the market forces that will affect that particular prices, its worst situation can be around 300 or 400. And that will have doubled the initial cost of the fuel that was assumed to have been subsidized to the Nigerian people. So all of these were not well planned out, well thought of. I've always said that the major problem we have, even with our leaders, are that they don't really think deep before they act.
Well, in a matter of weeks, we'll see what execution would look like. But, Mr. Tanko, that would seem that, you know, implementation of the president's announcement, much of it is the heart of the matter. And that's where I'm headed, Mr. Aliyu, as I come to you. The president made a few pronouncements about agriculture, about how you know, they would deploy resources to develop farming for wheat, for rice, and for cassava. You know, just 2 weeks ago, the country director for the WFP, Mr. Matthias Schmil, you know, in his observation at a program to react to the announcement of the declaration of a state of emergency on food security, noted that there are thousands of hectares of land in Nigeria that are not being farmed because the people do not feel safe to do so. What will seem to be missing, in the interventions announced by Mr. President yesterday was a provision for security to ensure that this farming is, executed to, a place of reassurance for Nigerian farmers. What are your thoughts on this? Is this speech well thought out without that provision?
All right. The speech is very well thought out. If we are being very honest and being patriotic, and I'll say this, that data don't lie, numbers don't lie. Emotions can fly here and there, but facts are facts. It stands facts after years. The president earlier had declared, emergency on food security, and in that speech, he made it clear that, food security is now a matter of national security. We'll be honest with ourselves that in the past years, we've dealt with national security as if it's just militarized issues. We've looked away from all of the other challenges, economic challenges, human challenges, our integration challenges that could have resulted into this national security. Right now, we have food security, which basically takes care of the law-abiding citizens and the vulnerable in the society. And the moment they are taken care of, it becomes their responsibility to take care of the society. You find out that a whole lot of people, I remember clearly was it 2003 at an interview that the late Gani Fawahimi granted on one of the national TVs, and was it prior to that, when he was talking about security, and he said, while there's kleptomanity, the fact that certain people can't feed, it's a reason why a lot of people do unholy things, including some of these things that we complain about. If we take away food security, the jobs it creates, the opportunity it provides, the confidence it gives to the people to understand that the government really cares and the society is about them, we are forgetting the fact that it's not us versus government, it is us versus the society. We are the society. If we feel that society is for us and we are for the society, chances are that we will protect ourselves from these security issues. And, it's what affects our food right now. Like
these pronouncements are immediate. Pardon me if you can hear me, Mr. Aliu. These pronouncements are immediate interventions, and that supposes that they'll be happening in the short term rather than the long term. If indeed food security is a matter of national security, don't you think it should have been covered in Mr. President's address?
When he declared emergency on food security, I think he pretty much covered that. And as of yesterday, this speech, speaks to, basically the palliative, speaks to what the economic situation is like. Someone rightly said, one of the biggest challenges we have at hand now is, if not it is the biggest challenge, is the economy. And that's what yesterday was about. It's about he has unearthed his plans to address these issues that we have. And, if we understand how the system works, we understand how society works, we can tell how the implementation, I do not have anybody who has a concern about how it's going to be implemented. But to say this isn't a good enough plan, no. Let's focus our energy, let's focus our attention on how to ensure we contribute. It's not every time we attack. Let's be collaborative. Let's show that, okay, come up, you are Labour Party, you are PDP, we are all Nigerians. It affects every one of us. Nobody's gone to pump a gas station and presented ID card. Nobody's gone to anywhere and presented ID card. It's going to be a collective problem. If the government fails, we all fail. It's not like we are going to come after 8 years and say, no, let's ensure that we don't fail. The we is us, Nigeria. We don't fail by saying, okay, the plans are good. These are areas I think you should look at in implementation. These are areas we can come in to provide our...
All right, Mr. Audu, let's take on that question of patriotism that you just asked now. Dr. Pierce, so he's spoken about, patriotism. Whichever government is in power, be it a PDP government, be it a Labour Party government at the federal and state levels, without collaboration, no matter how fantastic the plan is, it will not work. And at the end of the day, just as you said, it's the Nigerians in the lower rung of the ladder that will take the hit.
That's 80% of us, by the way.
Exactly. Us. Interestingly, the president also said he's one of us. So
he's not one of us. That's a lie.
Well, anyway.
Mine's a billionaire.
It's your word against his own. But no, the point I'm making is the point that I'm making is this. In terms of patriotism, collaboration by all Nigerians, the president listed 75 manufacturing companies. He listed quite a number of institutions. He listed smallholder farmers. He listed 100,000 MSMEs. He listed nano businesses, 50,000 or thereabout of them. These are Nigerians that are going to do business and that are going to employ people. In terms of collaboration, in terms of cooperation with whatever initiative of any federal, state, or local government initiative, what would be your word to Nigerians, particularly in the light of the president's vision? We understand your criticism, but at the end of the day, this is what we have for now. What do Nigerians have to do to make it work in the interest of the nation?
Let me tell you, first and foremost, believe you me, I wish President Tinubu well, especially once the tribunal is over and all of that issue is gone. We will work with him in every way. I really believed that if nothing else, Tinubu will come in and it will improve the economy. But I'm telling you, there's so many things going on that is not addressing. And it's not just patriotism of the companies that will develop the country. It's what we do in the media and people like myself. We are holding him accountable. We are making sure that he understands some of the issues that are going on, that he needs to go back and look at them. Devolution of powers to the states, so that states can come into the revenue stream and develop the economy from what they have in their own states.
So you are calling for another constitutional review?
No, it doesn't. Yes. No, that constitution is a bogus constitution. The 1999 constitution, there's nothing Tinubu would do that will improve the economy of this country if he doesn't review that constitution. Therefore, making sure that all of these minerals at the exclusive list come back to the concurrent list so that people can use the bitumen, third largest deposit of bitumen in the world, in Ondo area, to develop. Look, the whole of Nigeria will develop. We must go back to this. So therefore, if you talk about patriotism, it is people like myself who are truthful, telling him the truth. Let me tell you something that happened. We're talking about subsidy removal is not in the 2023 budget. You know why it's not there? Because when they went to the appropriation bill committee, they were told that it's not necessary because Dangote refinery is going to come in stream by the end of 2022. Now, Kyari is telling us that even if, by the way, he said it on this TV channel, that even if Dangote refinery comes on board, other refineries comes on board, the petrol price will not come down. The president needs to talk to that guy, query that fellow. These are the people damaging the economy and are going to make anything work for him.
Okay.
We will hold him accountable. We will tell the truth to the president.
Okay, happily so. Well, Dr. Tanko, in terms of patriotism, and I'm mentioning that because at the end of the day, we're all Nigerians. We all have a responsibility to ensure that this nation works for all of us, irrespective of party lineage, irrespective of interests or affiliations and all. At the end of the day, we all have to make this nation work for everyone. So, in terms of collaboration, particularly between the federal and state governments, Labour Party has a state, other political parties also have a state, so it's not just the APC that is in control of any particular state. All states in the country, there are other states that are being controlled by other political parties or governed by other political parties. So in terms of collaboration, because the president mentioned that in the speech, working with states and local governments to cushion the pains, what would be your suggestions or propositions as a Nigerian and as an academic to those state governments and local governments to collaborate with the federal government so that the lives of Nigerians can be made better?
Yeah. Patriotism is key for me, but it has its own price. The price of patriotism is in how the leaders lead the people to believing in themselves. We have an issue of trust deficit, a very serious trust deficit between even going in terms of religion, in tribe of tribes, and in terms of beliefs on whoever it is in position of power. So, as we are speaking right now, we have challenges of issue of legitimacy. It creates a lot of wounds in the minds of a lot of Nigerians who do not even believe that probably we'll have a government in place until when probably the judiciary made their final pronouncement on the situation. Now, will now be left for whoever is in the position of power to say, hey, look, I agree, just like Yaradua did, I agree that I had a flawed election that brought me in, or even though the judiciary have made their own pronouncement, I am now here. Let us work together. You've already made your plea. A lot of people have now come to agree with the judiciary. Okay, they made their own position. We now have to sit back. But first thing is first. We have to make sure that the leadership is in the right place. The processes that brought in is still a very flawed process that is hurting a lot of people. And they're not ready to really come down. I'm having my wristband of my presidential campaign still on my hands. A lot of people still have. And so, in that regard, where do you expect them to sit back again? When instead of actually looking for situation of healing the wounds, what you are now doing is inflicting more pain. So how would they now come back and say, okay, patriotism first? Because we are seeing that history have taught us that some of these particular leaders who have found themselves in position of power have already taken this country for a ride for a very long time. We have seen people having bullion vans in their homes. Even Dangote, who seemed to be a businessman, didn't do that. And then we now have the same people now trying to tell us that there are some certain people different from the same people who have put us in this particular same mess, and then we're now asking for patriotism. No, the patriotism has not been instilled in the leaders that we have, and it has not shown clearly the clear passion and empathy to the people. The people are walloping in terms of pain and pang as I'm talking to you. And that is the reason why you saw what you saw, what you see in Adamawa State. And other states who could have taken cue from that. So we need to heal the wounds as quickly as possible. And I want to believe that the judiciary will help us to deal with this particular matter, and then we can now go back to the drum bar and say, look, hey, let's look out for this particular country, because this country is bleeding.
All right, gentlemen, as we wind down on this, I mean, Ali, let me ask you. I mean, I see that the president says they've made provisions to roll out buses across states and local governments for mass transit at a more affordable rate. Then 100 billion between now and March 2024 to acquire 3,000 units of 20-seater CNG fueled buses. We do hope that these buses will be the ones assembled in Nigeria.
Yes, that's basically, if you follow the Mr. Vice President, that's exactly what's causing what's the delay. I mean, if we're going to buy easily and cheap, it probably would take 22 days, a few days would have been here right now. But we understand what the impact of having it assembled here mean to the manufacturing business, the automobile industry, and jobs creation. I mean, having said that, just allow me quickly respond to certain things. Leadership isn't about when you're president or local government chairman or anything. Sir, you're a leader. You have a responsibility to the society. And someone said President Tinubu isn't one of us. I'll tell you for free that his son, Tinubu, who ran into me, or we ran into ourselves at a pub some years back, and out of national discussion concern, we became acquainted. And I have worked with him closely, and I have seen the spirit of the average Nigerian kid that I represent in him. Up till this minute, we talk with a whole lot of facts and emotion, as to what's going on, what the feelers out there is, what needs to be done. I mean, you don't get more Nigerian than that. It's not about how much money you have or how much money you don't have that makes you Nigerian. You don't just suddenly become billionaire tomorrow and someone say they are no longer in Nigeria. No. Let's go away. I mean, the problem I have always had, and I'll be very frank about this, is the quality of people we have in politics, which is what pushed us for 8 years to create internal opposition within the party, because the opposition clearly were missing, and they have started missing again. Because what I would expect to hear from any opposition right now who has the problem with the plan to come out and say, you said there is no funding, and you have just been told that there's a 800 million naira that's been approved for it, even though it was said that you were not listening. And someone said it is a partisan. No, let's get something straight.
All right.
Let's get the best of our best in government and get our best in opposition. Come up with your plan.
All right.
A parallel plan that says, oh, you have said you are doing this. This is where we have, we think there are faults. This is what we will have done. If you do this, you convince me that you know what you are saying. Right, it is easy to complain and rant and whine. No, it doesn't solve the problem.
All right,
what we are dealing with is the solution, and the president has taken the right step, and we are headed in the right direction. And all we can do is join our heads, join our hands, and see how we can collaborate to lift us as a nation out of where we are and take us where we need to be.
All right, gentlemen, we need to anchor the point. Dr. Yunus Otanko is the chief spokesperson, Labour Party, PCC. He says he's still wearing his band. Leo Aldu, member, APC Presidential Transition Committee, Council, beg your pardon, and he's of the Media Strategy Subcommittee. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Are you on, Buki?
So, Adetokunbo PS, your last words, 30 seconds.
The president must go back to the drawing board and look at all the issues. He has good ideas, but I think that is approaching the whole economy as if we have a village economy. It's a big country. You are buying buses. How are the buses going to run? Government is not in the business of buying buses for people. Total, it's not going to work. If the buses cannot afford petrol, if the price of petrol is high, cost of busing will be expensive. How do you maintain these buses? So what we have to do is to learn from developed economies. You want to develop transportation, you have a regional, sub-regional arrangement whereby the states come together and develop a system where they run their transportation.
Okay.
So these are the things that I would advise the president to do.
Okay.
So he needs to go back, take a good look, let economists deal with this issue.
Okay.
Mr. President, don't think because you were able to raise the IGR in Lagos, you are going to solve the economic problem of Nigeria. This is beyond you.
Okay.
Go to the specialists, let them advise you, and we should always hold the powerful people to account.
Okay, even though, as you said, you're very correct. Now that we have ministers coming in, some of them economists, hopefully they'll be able to assist. But by the way, those buses are supposed to run on CNG, all 3,000 of them. Dr. Adetokunbo Piers is a member of PDP National Presidential Campaign Council and Lagos State Coordinator, Atiko Kowa Presidential Campaign Support Group. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right, another funny issue that's been of interest is that much talked about protests. That's up in a moment. Just stay with us.